Show me.
I'm the martial arts film freak, and I watched The Iceman Cometh, the one from 1989. The Iceman Cometh is a 1989 film directed by Clarence Falk, starring Yuen Biao, Yuen Hua, and Maggie Chung. The film is about Yuen Biao and Yuen Hua, a great Ming Dynasty warrior and a terrible rapist murderer guy who both go forward in time about, 500, 300 years. I don't know the difference between the Ming Dynasty and 1980s Hong Kong. I don't know when the Ming Dynasty was. But they're both sent forward in time due to a magic thing, a magic thingamabobber that Yuen Hua was trying to get to escape his time, where he is a known criminal. And they both end up in the 80s. And I always wanted to see this movie because I've only ever seen like slivers of that final fight scene. I'm a huge Yuen Biao fan. Yuen Hua is also fantastic. I'll get some Maggie Chung whenever I can. So I always wanted to see this one, thinking it was some huge martial arts movie. Turns out it is much more of a fish out of water comedy. Don't get me wrong, this is definitely a kung fu movie. There is definitely kung fu in it. Lots of fights. Well, I was going to say lots of fight scenes. There are fight scenes. But for the most part, we are seeing Maggie Chung and Yuen Biao. Maggie Chung, who just sort of takes in Yuen Biao and then like forces him to be her like servant. Maggie Chung's character is maybe a prostitute who forces Yuen Biao to do a bunch of, like he's her maid, he's her driver, he's her bodyguard, and the whole time he thinks like she leads him on as she's supposed to be this like great, incredible woman, like she's a princess, like he would come across maybe in his time. So she's probably not a good person. And then when we find Yuen Hua in, I was gonna say modern, this movie was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And when we find Yuen Hua in 1989 Hong Kong, he is doing pretty much the exact same thing he was doing in his time. He's a thief, he's a murderer, he's a rapist, and he's an all-around horrible person. Hong Kong movies and perhaps 80s action movies altogether are really good at like blending these different story elements and cramming together elements of different like genres, where moments where it's like, this is a sort of darker crime movie, but this is a fantasy movie, but this is a comedy. When I think of something like that, I maybe think of like maybe like a Last Action Hero. Plenty of great action scenes, also a very funny movie. And this is genuinely a pretty funny movie. Like the whole fish out of water thing is done quite well. There's a great moment where when Maggie Chung first takes Yuen Biao back to her apartment, he's just like asking questions about a bunch of things. He doesn't know what the TV is. He doesn't know what the toilet is. At one point he thinks it's a well, because he just starts figuring like, oh, this is an electric this is an electric this, so the toilet must be an electric well, and he starts drinking out of it, even though he realizes that the water doesn't taste great. And when he realizes later what exactly he was drinking out of, that's pretty well done. There really, though, isn't that much action throughout the movie. You get your burst at the beginning, and then it's really the fish out of water story, and then Yuan Biao and Yuan Hua sort of finding each other in modern times, and then you get all the action beats at the end. And with that also comes sort of a late development in the story, in that this sort of bugged me, and it was Yuan Hua's master plan is not really formed until the final like 25 minutes of the movie. He figures he comes to this conclusion that in a world of guns there is no need for martial arts, so what he's going to do is he's going to just get this huge cache of guns, and he's going to take them back to his time period, and he's just going to rule with guns. Now that's a pretty, I guess, good plan. I just wish you would have come up with it much earlier in the movie, because it's almost over and I'm pretty confident you're going to fail. But how is the Kung Fu? Because this is a Kung Fu movie after all. So it's a really good blend. You get your wuxia fantasy type stuff, your wire work, your sword play, all that stuff in the beginning when they're in their own time. And then when they come to the future, of course, like I said, you really don't get that much action until the end. And the final fight scenes between Yuan Biao and Yuan Hua are just near perfection, because you are getting two guys who are at the top of their game, their absolute prime, getting to do what the hell ever they want, and it just works in every single way. There's like this stupid moment where it's Yuan Biao with a sword and Yuan Hua with a gun, and you can't help but think that that's freaking great, awesome. And then finally their last hand-to-hand battle in this like museum essentially, and they're just throwing each other through glass and all these, I can't even think of the word, exhibits in the museum. One thing that I forgot to mention is that because of the nature of them coming forward in time, the way they did it, they also now sort of have these special abilities. So it's mostly just that they're a lot stronger. They're a little bit more like impenetrable. Like at one point, Yuan Biao catches a bullet. They're probably a bit faster. I don't really think they ever said that. This movie also looks great. There's some really great classic looking like 80s shots in here. Like one of them like on a rooftop, both with swords, and like an airplane goes by in the background. Looked phenomenal. And the special effects, the like electricity and all this like sort of like energy kind of special effects that you'd see throughout the 80s. It definitely has that 80s look to it. That just, even though it definitely sort of doesn't like hold up, it's just that nostalgic way that special effects looked back then, and it looks a lot of fun to me. But that final fight scene is really the major source of the action in this movie. And while I do think this movie is not quite a martial arts movie, most of it is the comedy and the fish out of water stuff, that final fight scene may be like a perfect reason to watch this movie. It is a great finale to just an odd, weird movie. Also, the final fight scene has like a flash kick. It's just like a backflip kick, like Bruce Lee did in Enter the Dragon. Like Guile's kick in Street Fighter. That's what a flash kick is. So Yuan Biao does this to Yuan Hua in what is one of the most obvious wire spots you've ever seen, which is weird because I feel like Yuan Biao could land this kick. But like also my cut, which is Fortune Star right here, I could just see the wire, which is weird because I've seen cuts where you can't see the wire, but I saw it. It's there. But it's also ironic that he needed a wire because he's fighting the guy who did the most famous flash kick of all, Yuan Hua, who in that scene in Enter the Dragon when Bruce Lee does the flash kick, that wasn't Bruce Lee. That was Yuan Hua. So he's hitting a guy with his own move, and he needed a wire to do it. Although I don't really think Yuan Biao needed a wire to do it. Let's wrap it up. In the end, I am going to give the Iceman Cometh, I'm going to give it about 4... Oh, this is weird. 4 electric toilets. Let's go 4 electric toilets out of 5. This is quite a good movie. Like I said, it is not a straight-up kung fu movie. It's not a straight-up action movie. It is whatever they were doing in the 80s. The 80s where they just made action movies that were also comedies, that were also a little horror, that were also a little suspense. It's that. I don't know how to describe that, but I guess I just did. Yeah, 4 electric toilets out of 5. It's a good one. It's funny. The fight scenes are fantastic. There's not a lot of them, but when you get to the fight scenes, it's going to be worth it, and you're not going to be completely bored waiting for them, because the movie's pretty funny. But tell me what you thought of the Iceman Cometh 1989, not the Donnie Yen 2013 one. I haven't actually seen that one because I don't want to. It just doesn't look very good. Tell me what you thought of the Iceman Cometh in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Head over to Facebook where there is the Martial Arts Film Freak Facebook page, Instagram Martial Arts Film Freak. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.